such a cute baby. He slept all night at about 2 weeks. He could walk at 9 months, and he started reading words when he was 3. And you want to know what I thought? I thought, of course he did. He's my little boy. His name is Jordan Dale Roberts. He was a bright and witty and absolute delight as a little boy. Everything that a mom would want in a son, he was. He made straight A's in school. He was commended on his state testing, and on the weekends, our home was filled with his friends. He could read at college level when he was in the 6th grade. He had a fun, outgoing personality, and I thought, nothing but good things are ahead for this boy. I never, ever saw addiction coming for him. It was so far from my own experience. I was raised in a family where my parents loved each other and Jesus and me. And I was kind of a smart aleck girl growing up. So I knew my kids were probably going to give me a run for my money and be a little bit smart aleck, maybe a little rebellious. But I was going to mother them from this well of wisdom, and they were going to love me and appreciate my advice. That's what I thought. I had a lot to learn. The struggle began in high school, not long after Jordan lost his family again. His dad left our marriage when Jordan was 3, and Jordan remembers sitting on the curb watching his dad drive away with all of his belongings piled up in the back seat. After 18 months apart, we remarried. I don't know if I'm a slow learner or what, but into that union, 2 other beautiful little boys were born. Unfortunately, his dad left our family again when Jordan was almost 14 years old. The 4 of us that were left in the house were very bewildered and very brokenhearted, but the little boys really don't remember anymore, now in their 20s, a time when our family was intact. But Jordan remembered. At first, it was just acting out in school, and I have never been in any kind of trouble in school, and neither have any of my sisters. We loved school. We loved doing projects. We listened to our teachers. For the most part, we obeyed our parents. So when Jordan started acting up in school, I'm like horrified and embarrassed. And I would drop everything and run up to Tomball High School, and I would sit there and scold my son and tell him that he shouldn't be doing those kind of things. And I remember one time actually saying to the principal, because I was very full of pride in the beginning, I must say, I remember saying to him, "Tell Miss Street," the assistant principal, "tell her what's printed on our fridge at home. This little card is yellowed with age, but it's what I taught my boys. The test of a man is what he is when no one's looking." And for some reason, I felt it important to let this assistant principal know that I was doing my best to raise this kid to be a good kid. Now, I'm a person of faith, and I believe in grace, and I prayed a lot in those days that the Lord would just fix Jordan. I didn't pray for grace to be a drug addict's mom, because that was not on the list of things I wanted to do. I was a Sunday school teacher. I'd been on the drama team and sang in the choir and on the praise team. I directed the children's choir, for crying out loud, and children's choir directors, children don't do drugs. So you get on that, Jesus, please, and thank you. This card is still on my refrigerator right now, mostly as a testament to what I've learned walking on this broken road with my son. I should update it for myself, because a better card for me from what I learned is the test of a mom is how she loves when no one is listening. I've often said of Jordan, when I write about him, that it was an exquisite ache to love him. Soon, you could start to see him change. Sometimes he'd be gone all night long. I remember one time he called, it's probably 2 o'clock in the morning, screaming and yelling that his phone was about to die and somebody had left him behind a dumpster on Loretta Road. And then his phone died. So here I am in my pajamas, driving this ancient green beat-up Yukon up and down Loretta Road, screaming his name, So behind every grocery store and strip mall and weird little convenience store and silly little businesses with a dumpster out back, I'm driving around back there screaming for my son. I finally found him and I brought him home, made him something to eat. I went back to sleep, only to wake up to find my son gone, as well as all the cash in my purse and his brother's Nintendo DS. It was one of the first of many nights just like it, where he would promise to change and repent and swear he was done, and we'd wake up with no Wii and no PlayStation, or maybe no laptop. There's so many stories. It seemed like every week there was a new one. Those were really some of the most bewildering days of my life. My dad, the worst word I ever heard him say was crap. And I thought surely the Lord was coming right then and there. We put Jordan into rehab just before he turned 18. It actually was the week of his 18th birthday. That Friday was going to be a family meeting, and he checked himself out on Thursday when he turned 18. We didn't see him for a little while. Some days I managed this with grace. Some days I was patient, and I was loving, and I was kind. And some days I screamed and I slammed doors and I said words that would horrify my saintly little mother. Because y'all know, there's sometimes you can't go, well, shoot, you're a poo-poo head, and this is an unfortunate situation. It just, it doesn't really have the pop it needs. Many nights I sat in my closet sobbing in a bath towel so the younger ones couldn't hear. So many nights and so many struggles and so much money. He landed in jail a couple of times here locally, but his addiction and all that comes with it landed us in prison with a felony conviction. Talk about heartbreak. I was completely and utterly heartbroken and devastated that my beautiful son had lost his youth to prison. Still a lot of pride wrapping around my heart in those days. I'm a very social person, and I had a kid I wasn't talking about. One morning, I got up and I went onto Facebook and I typed this sentence: I have a son in prison. But I've learned that the most important part of that phrase is I have a son. The next day, I noticed in my messenger notifications that there seemed to be more than the usual amount of messages. So I started opening those messages and reading them. And people would say, my daughter is in prison. My son is on drugs. We don't know where my nephew is. Story after story of people that had a similar heartbreak as I was having. One of my friends told me that it really helped her to see me sharing, and it made her feel less alone. I've got some friends here, and not everybody shares the way I do, but it was very comforting and encouraging to a lot of people, and it was very cathartic for me. All the while, my heart was breaking, but it was softening. When I say it was an exquisite ache to love him, I mean I was brokenhearted and devastated for our family and for myself. But I was so hurting to watch my son struggle. He was supposed to be in college. He was supposed to be having these carefree days. Instead, he spent them behind bars, on and off drugs, yes, in prison. Sometimes he would tell me that he only wanted to see his dad. I just need some dad time. I learned that that was code for, I've been beat up and I don't want you to see me like this. While he was incarcerated, his nose was broken 3 times. He lost 7 teeth in different scrapes. If you're in prison in Texas, in case you want to know, you get moved around for all kinds of reasons. And when you go to a new block, you have to fight the 2 biggest guys on that block. They call it a heart check. They're going to fall in your cell without any notice and beat you up for however long to see what you're made of. It's kind of like a rite of sick passage. So he would never know when it was coming, and I would hear of it later. One time he told me that he had this big scar on his back, and he told me it was a spider bite. And I learned years later that it was a stab wound. One night, probably the hardest night that I lived up until then, was the night that Jordan had called his dad to say goodbye. Bless his heart, he inherited his mom's sassy mouth, and he had gotten on the wrong side of a gang lord in prison, and word on the block is that they were coming for him. I kicked and screamed in my bed that night until I thought I'd be sick. I thought, this must be what it's like to have a stroke, because I feel like my head is about to pop off. They didn't kill him, but he wouldn't let me see him for almost 2 months, and the bruises lasted a long time. Oh, by the way, he fell down in the rec yard, because it's very true what they say about snitches and stitches. Sometimes we would have a day like that or an incident like that, and I would wonder, how did we get from little bunnies on the nursery border and putting masking tape on his shoes to teach him left from right? How did we get from that to this? What I thought was the worst part of the story was over on December the 10th, 2021, when he was released. We killed the fatted calf. We actually spent hundreds of dollars on tomahawk steaks and had this big dinner because the prodigal son was home. He had a job working for a nursery. He was seeing a psychologist and getting medication for what we found out was bipolar disorder. But a few weeks later, I could sense that something was not right. It was the day after Valentine's Day that I realized he was really off the wagon. And just a few weeks later, I found out that the night he got home from prison, a cousin had bought cocaine for Jordan to celebrate. I have never wanted to strangle somebody so much in my life. The next 19 months that Jordan was here were probably more disappointing and frustrating than the 14 years before. I thought that prison would be a big enough lesson, but addiction is a very evil taskmaster, and Jordan struggled with everything that he had missed while he was gone, how much the world had changed, how he felt like he didn't fit in anywhere, and the realization of all of that was really more than he could manage. In June of 22, we had finally convinced him to go to detox, and we were sitting in the lobby of a detox facility, and Jordan had been without whatever drug he was on at the time for a number of hours, so we knew we had a limited time before he would need something. I think they forgot us in the lobby because we waited and waited and waited, and suddenly I saw him start to twitch, and the next thing you know, he's writhing and convulsing on the floor. I was horrified. Suddenly, people are everywhere. The detox facility can't treat medical conditions, so they called an ambulance. Soon after they got him in the ambulance, they gave him some sort of an injection similar to the drug that he was withdrawing from, relaxed his body. We took him home. Well, we spent most of the night in the ER. Took him home and took him back to rehab the next day to detox. After 10 days in rehab, detox, Jordan went to stay in Fort Worth with a sober friend while we waited for a bed in a treatment facility to open. About 5 or 6 days later, he called me. He was driving in his truck. He was screaming. He was mad, and he was high. He and this friend had had a falling out, and he's driving some road in Fort Worth. He didn't really even know where. And I said, "You're in no position to drive. Pull over right now. Pull over." He kept screaming, and suddenly I heard this horrible, horrible crash, and nothing. And nothing. And nothing. Finally, this really, really loud cuss word, and it was the most beautiful word I've ever heard in my whole life. He had veered into oncoming traffic on a curve and hit a dump truck head on. The only thing that saved his life that day was that after he rolled several times, the cab was actually in a ditch. Otherwise, that would have been the day I lost my son. We thought that would be the wake-up call, and it was for a little bit. But he had broken all the bones in his right leg as well as his neck, and that's very painful, and pain medication, and more pain medication, and here we go again. The next year was a blur of more of the same, more addiction, more rehab, more deception, more fresh starts, more money, a methadone clinic, getting kicked out of the methadone clinic, until finally, August the 3rd, 2023. He didn't call me or text me that day, and I hadn't really noticed until early afternoon. And the young lady that he was with, they were actually in Louisiana. She called me and told me they'd gotten in a fight earlier that morning, and he had left, and she couldn't reach him. And I really didn't care because I didn't like her. So if he wasn't calling her, I was good with that. They had a very volatile relationship, and he had gone somewhere. And I thought, well, he'll do what he always does, and he'll show up somewhere. About 8:30 at night, I was actually in bed. My boyfriend was in Canada, and I was on Pinterest looking at pretty things. The phone rang, and his dad said that Jordan had been found unresponsive, that he was in a Louisiana hospital in ICU and not doing well. I rushed over to his house. My two younger boys are now in their 20s, and they live with their dad. They were packing because they were supposed to leave for a family reunion the very next day in Idaho. The doctor called and said that he had a profound anoxic brain injury and was essentially brain dead. They were very kind to us, very caring, and said that they would keep him breathing until we could get there and say our goodbyes. I have 3 sisters, and I tried to call all 3 of them, and nobody, for some reason, answered the phone. I called over and over, and finally I typed in all caps, "Where is everybody? Jordan is brain dead," with 1,500 exclamation points behind it. And just seeing that in print was such a shock to me. I drove home back to an empty house, and I didn't even cry. I just walked around saying, "Oh God, oh God." My sister came to be with me, and I was trying to pack a few things, and another doctor called and said that Jordan's heart had failed, and they'd resuscitated him, but he was explaining to me that his organs were shutting down, and if they had to resuscitate him again, if his heart failed again, they would not resuscitate. So he's talking to me, and someone else comes in the room and says something to the doctor. He pauses, and he says to me, "I'm so sorry, Miss Roberts, he's gone." And I didn't cry or scream. I said to my sister, "Call his dad and tell him he passed away." And then I started to write down all the things I was supposed to do that they were telling me I needed to do. We had come so close to losing him so many times, it didn't really even hit me that we had. I didn't even react in that moment. Has anybody ever slapped you in the face? It feels like that, only your whole body. It's just like this shock to your whole system. So I rushed back over to where my boys and their dad were, and of course we all cried. But it really didn't hit me until I headed back home. And I didn't even go in the closet or get a bath towel. I just cried wherever I was. As you can imagine, the next few days are just unspeakably horrible. The worst thing was seeing his name on a death certificate. Before you have your baby, especially the first one, you think about their name and how it sounds like and what the initials look like, and is it a good name for a little boy and a grown man? And you write it on the birth announcements, and you put it on their birthday cake. It's on the certificates that they win when they read the most books in the 2nd grade. Up until this day, the hardest day to see my son's name was the first time I went to see him in Harris County Jail and see Jordan Dale Roberts with a big number beside it, because I had to write that down to be able to see my son. That was nothing compared to seeing his name under the blue curlicue of the coroner's office out of the state of Louisiana. Jordan Dale Roberts. So while we're sitting there going through these things, his dad gets a phone call, and it's this detox place in Mississippi wanting to know if Jordan is coming. He had planned on his own to go to detox. One last party, one last hurrah, like eating a whole pizza before you go on a diet. I don't know what he thought he had, but it wasn't anything good. But what he didn't know is what he had, and he had fentanyl. It was kind of like moving in a fog, like when you're in the shower and the whole bathroom is full of steam and you can't see yourself in the mirror. So you wipe it away and you can see yourself for a minute and it closes back in. You can see yourself, but you can't see the edges. You can tell it's you, sort of, but you don't really know what to do with yourself. Partly you and partly somebody that you don't recognize. For me, all this hoping, all this praying, all this screaming, all this sobbing, and he's just gone. It was like running down a concrete hallway and slamming your face at the end. After a couple of days of just absolute despair, I was sitting outside by the pool, and I thought to myself, I have to get a hold of this. It feels like there's a big hole right over there, and all you really want to do is just crawl in it and not come out. It's the place where you lose yourself. And I vowed that I would not. I would not let addiction take me too. I told myself, this is too much for me, but I'll adjust. I read everything I could on healing. Somebody sent me little gemstones, and I put them under my pillow and in my pocket. They were supposed to help with healing. And I'd never done this before, but I put them out on the patio under a full moon to recharge their energy. It helped. At first, I tried to eat clean. The first day, somebody brought this huge tray of sandwiches from Jason's Deli, and I picked off all the bread and only ate the turkey. One day. Pizza, wine, whatever. But I really did try to take care of myself. I let myself rest when it was too much. I learned to get a hold of myself when the grief would sweep in like a tsunami. You know the kind of crying where you start sobbing, and then your shoulders get involved, and the next thing you know, you're just folded in the corner like your legs forgot what to do. It hits you at the weirdest times, like when my niece got married. She wanted a picture of Jordan on the remembrance table. Beautiful picture of my son. The back came off. I said, no worries, I'll bring my glue gun. Fix the frame. No big deal. Beautiful wedding. But when I folded it up while we were helping clean up and put it in a box, I realized he would never stand at the front of the church with love in his eyes, waiting for a bride. And it just hit me. There's people all around, they're dancing, and I'm over in the corner trying to get a hold of myself. Sometimes you just have to have that moment. It rushes in like the biggest wave on the beach that knocks you down. There's nothing you can do about that. You're going in. You're going to cry. It surges without a way to stop it. After a while, you try to take a breath. If you can't, you're not done yet. Just let yourself cry some more. After a while, you can grab that little breath, and it holds. And you're like, oh, thank you, God. And relief just washes over you. And after a minute, here comes the clarity. And pretty soon, you just wipe your nose, put the frame in a box, and you go on. I don't know if you've had your hardest day yet, but it's coming. It's just the way of the human experience. Life's hard. There's one thing I want you to take from this, and it's something that I learned, is you can borrow from healing that's coming. You may not feel it right now, but you can trust and believe that with all your heart that ache will pass in time. And you cling to that belief, and it helps a little. It's not that time heals all wounds, but it makes a big space between you and the worst day ever and gives more space to joy to fill in the space between. I know I'll be okay, and I'm going to cling to the hope of that. It gave me so much comfort. If you cut your arm, you don't dig around in it. You don't pour sand in it. You go get it cleaned. You get stitches. You put lotion on it. You love it. You baby it. You're so glad when you get the stitches out, and when you see that new pink skin, you just are so glad. I'm so glad for every little step I make. I'm good. They're big shoes. I've kind of stumbled along these last 589 days, kind of lurching between despair and disbelief, profound grief and gratitude. I manage now just like I manage the whole thing, sometimes with grace, sometimes with a potty mouth. He's home with me now. He made me a little jewelry box when he was in high school, and my portion of his ashes fit perfectly inside. When I first got this little box, I was so mad at him. And I would see it and I'm like, you know what? You're just a little shit, and slam the door. And then I'd feel bad and I'd open the door and say, are you okay in here? I'm sorry, honey. Pat on the box. Go on. But more often than not, I strive to be grateful. It comforts me to know that he's at peace and no longer struggles. And I'm grateful for the 30 years, 3 months, and 13 days that he was with me. Okay, everybody take a deep breath. Let it out slow. This is heavy. This is hard, right? This is a heavy, hard story, but I don't want you to take heaviness away with you today. My broken road has been hard and filled with hurt, but it's also one of hope and healing. People sometimes have said to me, oh, you poor thing. Don't ever say that to me, because I assure you I am no such thing. Jordan's experience made me a better person. It was bewildering and hard, but pain isn't the only thing that came with that. Sometimes I didn't know how much heartache I could bear, but along with that ache came awareness. There's some lessons in life that only pain can teach. So much judgment and posturing and arrogance was cleansed from my heart. You don't know what you don't know, but there's something about being on your face when your heart is broken that has a way of showing you the deep recesses of your heart. And nothing would have claimed and cleansed those places from me had it not been for this broken road. Every time I share about Jordan, it touches somebody new and it heals another part of me. It's a purpose that has come out of that pain. I guess I'm still in the yellow and purple part of a bruise that's on my heart. I haven't fully steadied my legs under the weight of my son's death. But what I do is celebrate what I know to be true, the fierce love that we had for each other. Even in the worst of times, our relationship was not broken. It was very strained, but not broken. I had slammed a door in anger on Monday, never dreaming that on Thursday he'd be gone. I'm so glad that we talked on August the 2nd. He said, I love you, Mom. And it's the last thing he ever said to me. Everything I know about love has been confirmed in my grief. That love is the most important part of difficult relationships. Love makes us better humans. It makes us more understanding, more forgiving, less petty. The love's what you remember when you look back. Love makes what is good about us better and what's not so good about us less important. Early in my struggle with my son, I wrote this poem about love. I didn't know what it would mean to me now. We actually printed this poem in the folder at the service at his celebration of life. It's called If Love. If love could save, then there would be no ache, no pain, no agony, no horrid, senseless, sad disease, no helpless, steepling misery, no dreadful demons, no relapse, no bad choices, no collapse, no wrenching loss, no funeral spray, no grave to dig, no taps to play. Love's not just a rhyme or a candy kiss. No, love was made for more than this. For love abides in deepest pain. It stands and weeps and stands again. Love strengthens when the darkness looms, when screams peal through black, empty rooms. Love soldiers on when hope has failed. Love clings tight when hell prevailed. It waits and wears a sturdy sheath while terror growls and lurks beneath. Love builds a bridge and looks ahead in spite of deepening fear and dread. Love really is the only thing that breaks and yet keeps strengthening. Of love, this is the mystery, that it abides and reaches me. Thank you.
I really admire you, and I appreciate your bravery and using your story to impact people. So thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Join us next month for Inspired Leaders on April 11th. We are always here on the second Friday of every single month from 11:30 to 1. Just put that repeating on your calendar and you will be good to go. You can scan that QR code. It'll take you straight to our Facebook page. You can click that you're going and you are done to RSVP. So please come back. Join us next month. Bring a friend and hear a beautiful story from Nelda Blair. We are so excited to have her. So thank you guys all for spending this day with us. Please go tell Alane what a kick-ass job she did and how amazing she is, because that is so true, and I'm just really grateful for all of you. So thank you, and have a beautiful weekend.